What's going on, people? Today we are back. Today I want to take a step back and just help out people that are just installing Logic Pro for the first time, don't know how to access sounds, don't even know where to start with sounds and drums. So I want to take it a step back and show you a couple things, including how to retrieve drum sounds, load them into Logic, and how to sequence them to build a beat. So with that said, I'm going to just jump straight into it. First thing I want to do is on my desktop is create a new folder. I'm just going to call this Drum Kits. That way I can stay organized, so when I retrieve my sounds I can put them straight into this folder. The next thing I want to do is go online and look up either royalty-free drum sounds, and then you could look within your genre if you're looking for something specific. So when I do this quick search, you'll see I have a ton of options here. It can be a little overwhelming, but you just want to make sure anything that you download is royalty free. I left a sample sheet in the description below and it looks like this. I just threw in a bunch of links here to different sound packs that I knew and have been using for a while. So this one right here, 9God sample pack, free download. I'm just going to get this one. And then going back to my desktop, I'm just going to drag this folder that I just downloaded into my drum kits. This is the same folder you'll access within Logic Pro to get your sounds. Alright, so after I got some cool drums, I'm going to go back to my sample sheet and see if I can find some melodies. Once I have my other kit downloaded, I'm going to do the same thing and just drag and drop that straight into my drum kits folder. So I've got two kits. I have melodies and I've got drums. So I've got basically all the sounds that I need to at least start a beat. And so I can just work from here. Now that I have my sounds, I'm going to go ahead and open up Logic Pro again. And so if you're looking at Logic Pro for the first time, you'll see something like this. And what I want to do is show you a couple ways that you can load in these drum sounds. But first, we're going to need to access them. How do we find them? I'm going to go to the top right here. In this icon, browsers, I'm going to open that up. I'm going to make sure all files is selected here at the top. And then go to wherever I saved that folder. So mine's on my desktop. So I'm going to open that up and find my drum kits folder right here. When I open that up, I can see the two kits that I just downloaded. So to start, I'm just going to drag in a melody that I find in this trap starter pack. And when I go and find these melodies or drum sounds within these folders, I can simply just click on them. So that's basically just going to give you a preview of all the sounds within these folders. I'm just going to drag in this first one right to that first audio track, and I can see it's 136 BPM, so I'm going to adjust my BPM to 136 so that it matches and lines up. So if I turn on my metronome, you can hear now it's on beat. Alright, so with my drum sounds, I'm going to go back to that original folder in which I saved my drums. I'm going to open that up and usually go with my one-shots. Here I've got my claps, kicks, cymbals, everything I need to build a beat. So what am I going to do with these sounds? So I'm going to start with a clap, right? And I could just simply drag and drop wherever I want this clap to be. And I can just continue to do that throughout my entire beat. But this is one option. Wow, they don't have hi-hats? So again, you could just drag and drop all these one by one and create your beat this way. It's a little bit more disorganized. But instead of doing all that, I'm going to show you a better option. And there's basically two main plugins in Logic Pro that you could use for drums. One being Ultrabeat and the other being Drum Machine Designer. So I'm going to show you both options. In order to access those, I'd hit this plus here and I'd create a new software instrument. So within this track here over on the left side, I'm going to change this to Drum Machine Designer and just show you this as the first option. If I wanted to just take one of these sounds, let's say I had a snare that I wanted to start with, and I'll just pick one of these. So I like this one. I'm going to drag this into the C1 slot. And the reason I'm going to do that is because when I open my keyboard with Command K in the very same C1 slot, I can now play in the sound that I just loaded. So if I wanted to also add in, like, let's say my kick drum to the same one, I could just take one of these kicks and drag it into the next slot. And so when I open my keyboard back up, if I want to just hit record, I could start building my beat right within this track. And so obviously when I recorded that in, some of those notes were off, and so I can just simply select all of them, hit Q to quantize them. Same thing with my snare. Play it back. So it's pretty cool. Drum Machine Designer is awesome. So again, you just open that up and you just drag and drop as many sounds into here as you want. Also within Drum Machine Designer, when you drag and drop a sound into any of these slots, I can open up this Q sampler detail in which you can actually start to manipulate the sound a little bit. So if you wanted to change the pitch, you could do so here. You could also mess around with a lot of these knobs. A lot of them I'm not going to explain in depth today, but a lot of really cool options on here. All right, so that's option number one. So that's Drum Machine Designer. So I'm going to open up Ultrabeat by adding a new track. Change this to Ultrabeat Drum Machine Designer Stereo. So within Ultrabeat, I'm going to open this drop down, go to drum kits, and then find drag and drop samples here. And that literally tells you exactly what to do. You take these samples and you drag them straight into this box right here. Exactly how we did with Drum Machine Designer. I just go one sample at a time and I can load this up all the way to 25 different samples. So one really cool thing I like about Ultrabeat is that it has this live sequencer. So as soon as I turn this on in the bottom left, as the beat plays, you can follow along with where the samples will be played. So if I wanted to draw this in, I'd click and drag. So I have a note there. So I'm gonna go ahead and draw in this kick pattern real quick. All right, so with my kick pattern here, I'm simply gonna take this little square and drag it to my instrument track. And so now I'm gonna come back in Ultrabeat and turn this off and then play on my track. And what I like to do with my Ultrabeat tracks is usually just duplicate them to a different one. So this will be my kick. And then my next one, I can just make that my snare. And I'm just gonna drag in a snare that I like. So I like this one. I'm gonna drag it into that first slot. And then another way to draw in these notes is by right-clicking on the track itself, doing Create MIDI Region and open up one of these. So if I zoom in, I can go sample one right there, Command, click, boom. That's very loud, sorry. All right, so when it comes to drum sounds, these are the two best options, Drum Machine Designer and Ultrabeat. Which one is better, you might be asking? It doesn't matter. It depends on your workflow. Both are really great options, and you can manipulate the sounds very similarly on both plugins. Those are great for drum sounds, but what about anything that's pitched? I'm talking about hi-hats, 808s, maybe even percussion rolls. So anything that's pitched like that, I would just open a new instrument track, and I'm gonna show you the third plugin today, which is Alchemy. Right here at the top, open that into stereo. So within Alchemy, I'm gonna go File, Initialize Preset, and this Advanced tab here in the top left. I'm just going to take any of these sounds again, so my hi-hats, which are gonna be pitched up and down and going crazy. I'm gonna take this and drag it straight into the sampler box over here on the left side. So when I open up my keyboard, just like before, now I can actually hear how the pitch changes with each note. So I can do the same exact thing with my 808s as well. So these are my 808s and I'm gonna drag them into that sampler track and then boom. So what I'm gonna do is on this first Alchemy track, I'm gonna title that 808s and then duplicate that down and I'm gonna call this my hi-hats and start to just get a little bit more organized. If I right click, create another MIDI region, this is where I can go in and draw the notes that I want instead of just playing them on my keyboard. I'm gonna open this up and go 1/8 note, change this to brush tool. And on that root note, I'm just gonna go ahead and Command click and drag, Command R to duplicate that over. And same thing with my 808s. If I go into this track, create a MIDI region, and so the key of this loop is C minor, so I'm gonna find that note. Option Shift down on my keyboard to bring those bass notes to where they belong, down here, and then turn the velocity way up. So I want you to remember these big three from today's video on how to add drums to Logic Pro. I want you to remember Ultrabeat. Drum Machine Designer is great. It has a different look and feel. And third, I want you to remember Alchemy for those pitch sounds such as your 808s and your hi-hats and your beats. Anything that's gonna fluctuate, go with Alchemy every time. Drum Machine Designer is a new one for me. I've been using Ultrabeat for years. And so with that said, I'm gonna go ahead and continue to make this beat into something cool. Change up this kick a little bit. I'm really feeling like an open hi-hat somewhere in here, but before I do that, I just want to lay in these hi-hats real quick. Very simple, but I know I'm just going to repeat myself in that second half, so. And on these second hi-hats, I'm gonna add this cool little effect. This is completely free called Pancake. It's a tremolo, so it's gonna move the sound left and right. I'm gonna change that so it goes quick. And on these rolls, on my kick drum, I actually wanna do something cool by just taking the first two, and I'm just gonna go ahead and like do a little velocity roll so that kind of goes up with each note. Do the same on the last two as well. I can probably add a couple of different open hats to this one track. Take me to church. So I got this cool, oh man, that's really rocking out, but I got this cool little pad that sits underneath it. I think that sounds nice. So I basically have this nice little 8-bar loop. Now I'm gonna take this and turn it into a full beat and leave it for you in the outro. If you're interested in a template for beat making on Logic Pro, I do have one. I'll leave that as one of the first links in the description. It kind of skips the entire setup process, so if you're interested, that's free to download below. So in this video, we learned not only how to retrieve drum sounds, but to also load them into Logic, start building beats. Very easy. Remember, Ultrabeat, Drum Machine Designer, and Alchemy are your best friends. And if you learned something from this video, leave a like and subscribe. Don't miss another one. I really appreciate you guys for watching. I have a lot of new stuff in the works, including a new way that I'm thinking of giving back the spotlight to you guys on the producers in the community. Stay tuned for that. I'll see you in the next one. Keep making music, keep it simple. Peace out.